Hello everyone and welcome to It Goes Off. We've just had round 19 and it was a round full of surprises, Grantley and Bernard. Unbelievable to see the New Zealand Breakers and Perth Wildcats drop a couple of games, and probably even more extraordinary was the wins by the bottom two teams in the Wollongong Hawks and the Adelaide 36ers.
Well, I mean, look, how do you pick who wins and who loses in this competition week in, week out? You know, you would not put your money, well, actually, no, that'd be a lot of money, on the top two losing the same weekend and the bottom two winning the same weekend. Just extraordinary. And the fact that the Hawks beat the Breakers. Well, that's a great result.
Well, the two biggest surprises, I think, was the Perth Wildcats dropping a game. Now, I know it was a tough one against the Taipans, but nevertheless, the way they'd been playing, they'd just come off a loss to New Zealand. You would think they would have been a bit up and about trying to recover from that loss. But full credit to the Taipans, the way they went about it, to get a team that really their season is starting to get on the line as far as making the playoffs, and they answered every question that was thrown at them.
Look, I think that you're right, and I think people are probably looking at what was wrong with the Wildcats, whereas maybe we should be looking at what was good about the Taipans, and I think it probably says a lot about the Taipans, and they have really put a 24-carat Tiffany victory on the board with that one. And that is one that could just kick them right along, because they're the Taipans are just going along nicely. They've won 3 of their past 4, and we should not forget that they were in the Championship Series.
And you might be over-exaggerating. I think it's 24 carat, but I don't know whether it's quite the Tiffany variety. That's top shelf stuff.
You don't think so?
They're right there. They're heading in that direction, but not quite there. The other one is what happened to the Wollongong Hawks. They lose round 18 by 41 points, the Gold Coast Blaze, go up against the top of the table New Zealand Breakers and come away with an impressive win.
Yeah, I can't.
How do you explain that?
Well, you can't get a read on the Hawks, can you? I mean, inconsistency is their middle name. You know, I mean, once upon a time they were the Wollongong Cooper's Tools Hawks. Well, these days they would probably be the Wollongong Inconsistent Hawks.
Well, they were inconsistent, but they got an unbelievable performance out of Oscar Foreman. He had 30-odd points, 7 of 7, a perfect 7 of 7 from the three-point line, and 11 of 12 from the field overall. That is some type of game.
It's not bad. And 7 boards just to throw in, to show that he was doing a little bit of work at the other end. But that is, I guess, the conundrum with Oscar Foreman, is that people have always seen him as being that quality player, and he kind of fits with the Hawks that he's not had that consistency over his career. But that's what he's always been capable of, just hasn't always put it together. No,
brilliant performance by him. Interesting with the results of the top 2 teams falling. Fearne has come out and he was quoted as saying don't count on the Wildcats and the Breakers as a lock for the first 2. Now, Aaron, in the euphoria of a dramatic win over the Perth Wildcats, is he getting a bit ahead of himself there? Because it's hard to see how they won't finish in the top 2, but then you see the way they lost and you go, well, maybe he's got a point.
Well, we might have a point. But have you ever seen Aaron Fearne euphoric?
Yeah. It's pretty level.
Or get ahead of himself?
No.
So I think what he's saying would be fairly measured. And I think they've got to believe that as well, that they've got to think, look, if we keep our good form together, we're not playing for a spot in the playoffs. That's the bottom end. We're playing to catch these 2. So it's more maybe a bit of a motivation, G-up kind of thing for his team to say, we're not just playing.
No.
We're not just trying to win games to make the playoffs. We're winning games to compete with these top 2 teams.
Well, and they did a very good job of it, and they're back in the top 4 again. So, and that come at the expense of the Townsville Crocs. And when we look at the Crocs and the road ahead, we saw the run to the finals. It's a pretty tough one the Crocs have got. And Paul Woolpert, he actually came out and said he wouldn't have paid his players on the strength of their performance against the 36ers. Is this an aberration for them, or is this has the schedule been such for the Crocs that maybe they're not quite up to the top teams?
It's hard to know. I mean, they've been going along nice. They've had some very good wins.
They have.
And you've got to think if they are a serious playoff team with a serious idea of trying to albeit an outside shot at the championship, that's a game that they should win. With all due respect, Adelaide.
Yep.
Adelaide's not had a good season.
No.
Very beatable on any night, but the Crocs haven't beaten Adelaide. Now, give Adelaide credit.
Yep.
But what does that tell you about Townsville?
Says they've still got a bit of work to do. They're very much still in the hunt. They're just outside the top 4 on 11 and 9. They've got the same amount of losses of the Taipans, who are 12 and 9. So they're by no stretch out of the running, but disappointing loss to them. One player that's been an absolute sensation this season, Grantley, is Cedric Jackson for the New Zealand Breakers. He's the point guard with the Breakers. He leads the league in assists. He's averaging about 12 points a game and a couple of steals. He's been one of the main reasons the New Zealand Breakers are sitting on top of the table. And we caught up with him this week and asked him about his season and also about how he thinks the Breakers are going to go in the playoffs.
I'm here with New Zealand Breakers point guard Cedric Jackson. And Cedric, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, man, for having me.
This season, 4 of the 5 Breakers losses have come on the road. How important is it for you guys to wrap up home court advantage through the finals?
It's very important. We really can't sleep on any team because just about every team we play is great at home. So we definitely have to go in there with a strong mindset of try to take teams away from what they're really good at, which is not easy. So definitely just going to take one game at a time, and hopefully we can get a good win this Saturday.
The Breakers have a reasonably tough schedule the remainder of the season. 5 of your 8 games are against teams that currently sit in the top 4. Does that give the team an advantage because the competition and level of intensity will remain high going into the finals?
Yeah, it's good momentum, because we'll definitely see what we're up against when we get to the playoffs and everything like that. So, but really don't want to overshadow any other team that we've got up next. So I really can't, specify what we're really up against. So we definitely just want to, focus on, Wollongong, who we have next. They're really good at home. They've just been shooting the lights out at home. So we definitely have a big game against them and slowing them down, and also dealing with the Ubaka, definitely giving them a great lift. So definitely have our hands full with them now that he's there.
Cedric Jackson has been a sensation this season, and he's probably the major reason you think, Grantley, why the New Zealand Breakers are on top. We all thought with Kirk Penny gone that they might just falter a little bit, but he has been superb.
One of the reasons. He's been very good, very steady, and good work by our man, Jumpin' Jace there, just to
straighten things out.
Get those words there.
Well, it's a perfect segue here in a segment that we call Who's Hot? Who's Not? And as per usual, Grantley's insisted on attacking some of the lesser performances out there. So I'm going to touch on some of the better ones. And we start off with Oscar Foreman. Grantley, I would say this is possibly the best individual performance we've seen all season, certainly statistically. 29 points on 11 of 12, Oscar was. Perfect 7 of 7 from the three-point line. And just shot the ball incredibly well.
No, did a great job. I reckon that'd probably get you a game at MSAC on a Monday night.
It definitely would. It'd get you a game in most teams, those types of performance. Another person that people I should say, that is white hot is the backcourt of the Gold Coast Blaze. Idriss Delion and Adam Gibson combined for 46 points and 17 assists in the win against the Sydney Kings, and they were superb against a Kings team that really struggled to find a way to contain the penetration and the leadership that they were able to provide. And lastly, I put in the Cairns Taipans. They shut down the Breakers, and with their kind of getting to a stage backs against the wall. When you look at the schedule that the Taipans have got, it's a tough run home, and they needed this one against the top of the table Breakers, and they were able to do it. Now, Grantley, what has caught your eye for all the wrong reasons?
The not hots. Not hot, the Sydney Kings.
No.
Stick a fork in them.
Gone.
They are done.
Yes.
4-game losing streak. Bum, bum.
Still can cause some damage, but they're not going to make the playoffs.
Damage. They're done. It's over. And Moose Rebellion has come out and said, I'll decide by the end of the month if I'm going to continue.
Right.
So he's thinking about where this thing goes, but for this season, the Kings are cooked.
Okay.
Perth Wildcats.
Yes.
2-game losing streak.
Not hot.
Now, in the West, this is
unheard of.
It's a crisis.
Oh, I wouldn't say
it's a crisis. Apparently, Jack Bendat woke up from his afternoon nap, heard about the 2-game losing streak, and wanted to know whether they were still allowed to be in the league.
Right.
That's how bad it is.
Now, for those who aren't aware, Jack Bennett is the owner of the Perth Wildcats. Carry on.
And finally, not hot, Paul Woolpert of the Townsville Crocs publicly criticised his players in quite a harsh manner, I felt. Players win, coaches lose.
Oh.
Stand up, take some responsibility for the defeat.
Yes, Grantley, Paul Woolpert, he's got some concerns there. Still very much in the hunt is the Townsville Crocs. But Grantley, we like to go out there and throw some challenges out to these very, very talented players out there. And we create a little segment called the 24-second shot challenge. That's where we get some of our players to go out there and see how many baskets they can make from the free throw line within 24 seconds. This week we go all the way out west, Grantley, and we've got Greg Hire hosting two of the development players. They better perform here because this is going on the national stage for the world to see. We've got Ben Purser and Michael Vigor. Let's see how they do in the 24-second shot challenge.
What do sea monsters eat?
I have no idea.
Fish and chips. Oh, hey guys. Welcome to the 24-second challenge. We've got the two Wildcat development players, future budding superstars here. We've got Michael Vigosaurus Vigor and then the Ben Purser. All right. Big Neville's going to help me out today in judging who do you reckon's going to win.
Definitely the Vigosaurus.
Let's bring it. Let's go, Purse. I've got jokes here. What can't you sell to a zombie? Life insurance. That's 3. What place did the zombie come in a marathon? That's 4. Dead last. What do you call a frozen skull? What do you call a frozen skull, Vigor? Numbskull. Oh, that was 8. All right, Vigor 1. There we go. Starts off. That's 2. Biggs, what do you call a seagull that lands on a cliff? I mean, a man with a seagull on his head. 1 cliff. What do you call a naked man walking down the street? Seymour. That is an air ball. Oh.
That's 2.
There you go, folks. We've got Ben Purser getting all the marbles, the chocolates, the Great Bambino. Thank you for joining us in the It Goes Off 24-second challenge. You know how we finish it. It goes off. Yeah! Oh!
Well, there it is, Grantley. The young fellas may be getting a little bit of stage fright. 8 to Ben Purser and only 2 to the Vigor. There wasn't a lot of vigour in that, was there?
Michael, not much vigour. And what about Greg, comedian not for hire? Terrible.
Not happy with the work of Greg Hire.
Terrible.
Oh well, he's doing some...
If we're gonna send our stuff out west, you got to bring your best gear.
Lift it,
boys.
Lift it out there, Perth. Come on now. Hey, Grantley, we have this little segment on this show where we like to get the feedback and let the audience join in the conversation. It's a segment we call the Mark Zuckerberg Minute, and that's where you can hit us on the Facebook, NBL Facebook page with a question, or you can come via my Twitter, Andrew Gage 10, or Grantley Bernard. Just Grantley Bernard, as we say, just might want to get a few followers, but he's trying hard, so maybe you can help the man out. And who we got first up this week in the Mark Zuckerberg Minute?
The first question comes from Craig Bolton, who asks, who needs the home court advantage more if they are to play for the title and why? Perth, New Zealand, or Gold Coast?
I think the Gold Coast Blaze need the home court advantage a little bit more, primarily because they've got a very, very good team. They're playing some fantastic basketball right now. But I think the missing piece of the puzzle for the Blaze is a bona fide big man. They don't have that big guy in the middle that can just completely take over a game. Whereas you look at the Breakers and the Wildcats, they've got some big fellas in there that when you're in a crisis, you can just throw it in there and size will.
But how does that make a difference whether you're playing home or on the road?
Well, because they're not as good. They're not as good. And if you're not as good, you need the home court advantage. That's
right. How
I deduct it. You with me?
Yeah. I would say it was the Breakers. If you're losing to the Wollongong Hawks on the road,
that's an aberration.
They're 5-5.
That's an aberration.
They are 5-5 on the road this season.
Right.
The Breakers need the home court. They needed it last season. They won at home. They lost the Taipans away. They won the championship at home.
Right.
I think the travelling The travelling problem catches up with the breakers.
I don't like to contradict you at all here, Grantley, because you are making some very good sense. But if you go back to the semi-final series, they actually lost at home to the Perth.
Don't worry about that.
To the Perth Wildcats. Yet they're able to bounce back. So
we're talking about this year now.
Right. Okay.
They're 5-5 this year on the road.
Right. No, fair enough. Who have we got next? We got Nathan Ho.
Nathan Ho.
What's he got for us?
Does CJ Bruton still have enough left in the tank to guide the Breakers through the playoffs?
I think his role has changed a lot, which it has to. He's getting on in years. He's had a few injuries, missed some games this year because of injuries. But I don't know if there's a more dangerous player down the stretch of a game that if you want a basket. We saw it last year against the Cairns Taipans. He hits a couple of huge baskets throughout that series. I think he is pacing himself. He's been there, done that before. Once the playoff kicks in, then CJ Bruton steps up.
Yeah, he's had some injury problems, and like you say, his role's changed. Jackson's come in, so there's probably been a lot fewer minutes, fewer shots. But like you say, I think down the stretch of a big game, CJ is not going to shy away from taking the big shot when you need it.
And lastly, we've got Nathan Strempel.
Who's in the running to win the Sporting NBL game.
Well, that's right. Anyone that Grantley Bernard believes provides us with the best question, we give gifts. And this is a cracking gift. It's valued at $129. It's a Sporting official NBL game ball. It's an absolute beauty. So that's on offer.
Nathan Strempel is the third question of the day from Facebook. The 36ers offence looked so hard to stop when they ran stuff for Darren Ing to get open.
Yes.
Are you surprised they don't do this more often?
Well, Darren Ing is an outstanding shooter and has been for quite some time.
Leading the 24-second challenge.
He has a world record 24-second shot challenge figure of 16 consecutive baskets, and I don't believe that will be beaten or can be beaten just in the time allowed. But his form this year, if you look at his statistics across the board, he's been a little bit up and down, and that might be because his minutes have been a little erratic as well. So there's no doubting he's a good player, and a player like that gets on a streak becomes hard to stop. He had 18 points, I think it was, against the Townsville Crocs, and if you can free him up, the thing about Darren Ing is that his ability to take people off the dribble is not as good as just being a stand-up shooter. So if you get those defenders that are up and in, up and in their face sort of thing, it's a little bit more difficult for him. But he's still a quality player. Can put the ball in the hole.
Oh, look, I rate him as easily in the top 10 shooters in the league, if not top 5, for pure shooting ability. He's gold. I'll take him any day.
And I noticed he was tweeting about Jeremy Lin, the other sensation in the NBA, who went off the New York Knicks. So perhaps he just got motivated by the form of Jeremy Lin over in the United States. Grantley, who have you got? Who's going to take home the Sporting NBL game ball?
3 good questions.
Very good ones this week.
Three good questions. I actually did like the last one from Nathan Strempel.
Right. Nathan Strempel. NBL game ball, Sporting one at that, coming your way. We'll be in touch and get that out to you as soon as we possibly can. Grantley, we are up to round 20. Please let the viewers know where they can go and see a high-quality standard of NBL basketball this weekend.
Certainly. All 8 of our viewers can go and see the New Zealand Breakers against the Wollongong Hawks.
8, we've doubled.
On Thursday night. The audience is up.
We've doubled.
The Breakers and the Hawks, so it's the rematch of last weekend's upset game in the Gong. On Friday night, it's another Reptile Rumble. This one is got massive implications. The Townsville Crocodiles at home to the Cairns Taipans. Who's going to win?
Just give us your tips as you go through too, Grantley.
Look, I think the Breakers will win at home.
Right.
And I actually fancy the Taipans to get over the Crocs.
Okay.
I think they've got that one in them. Then the Taipans back up on Saturday night against the Melbourne Tigers. Could be a toss of the coin here, but I'm going to go with the Taipans. On Sunday, the Perth Wildcats should beat the Sydney Kings in Perth. And then on Sunday, the Crocs, another massive game against the Gold Coast Blaze. This one is in Brisbane. Gold Coast home game in Brisbane, so neutral territory. But I fancy that the Blaze should get that win. Now, even bigger than those games.
Please.
Even bigger than those games. Coming up on March 26th is the MVP Awards night.
Oh, yes.
Massive night.
Yes.
That's the one where you let your hair down and you have a full-strength Coke rather than Diet Coke.
Correct.
Okay, so March 26th at Crown, MVP Awards night. Everyone will be there. Tickets are available on the Basketball Australia website, basketball.net.au.
Fantastic night was had by all last year. They had Guy Sebastian was the lead act. There's apparently another very high-profile entertainment package going to be put together. So it's well worth a look. Get on the website and buy some tickets and come along. Probably more so for those Melbourne viewers to get out there and see the game. But certainly interstate viewers, make the trip, get the airfares and come on down and check it all out. It should be a fun night. And the full-strength Coke, just a little bit of extra sugar for me, just to really get the party started.
You really need it. Yeah.
Grantley, again, fantastic performance by you. We need to pay homage to those that support us and the NBL, and it all starts with our naming rights sponsor, IINet.
Connect better.
One.
Centrebet.
And one.
Sporting.
Rent Smart.
And Virgin Australia.
That's right. We thank those very, very great companies out there for chipping in and helping this superb game that we call basketball. Grantley, very, very interesting phase of the season. The race to the playoffs is well and truly on. Get out there and support your team, no matter where they are on the competition table. Until next week, we hope that you can join us and keep up to date with all the goings in the IINet NBL on the world famous #1 podcast in the universe, and it's called It Goes Off.